This court will come to order. This is the penalty phase of the trial against William Talbot, who has been convicted of multiple premeditated murders. What is the recommendation of the state?
The state asks for the death penalty, Your Honor.
Defense counsel, what say you?
Your Honor, as always, our organization opposes the death penalty. Our usual appeal to the jury is on the basis of cruel and unusual punishment. But since this is a bench trial and there is no jury, we must appeal to the sensibilities of Your Honor, whom we know to be a conservative Christian.
Your Honor, is it proper to bring religion into the argument?
Well, I must say that, in light of defense counsel's organization's goal of eradicating all vestiges of Christianity from public life, this does seem to be a rather interesting strategy. But, as both counsels well know, the Constitution of the United States does not prohibit religion from influencing government, but rather it inhibits government from influencing religion. And, as both counsels know, our nation's laws were founded on biblical principles. As such, I have no objection to the use of religious-based arguments in this death penalty deliberation. Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you have so aptly stated, our organization is not well versed in matters of Christian doctrine. But I have had a chance to scan the Bible briefly. And it seems to me from descriptions in the Gospels that in all cases of sin, Jesus would forgive.
That's it? That's your argument from the Bible?
Yes. And I think it's a powerful argument. Jesus would forgive.
Counselor?
Your Honor, I think defense counsel has a point there.
What?
Yes, very clearly, the Bible states that, if we humble ourselves, and confess our sins, Jesus would indeed forgive.
What are you up to?
If the defendant has humbled himself, and taken responsibility for each and every premeditated murder.
This is a trick, isn't it? You're trying to get my client to confess to the murders, so that we will have no grounds for appeal.
What about that, counselor?
Defense counsel's argument against the death penalty is based on the idea that Jesus would forgive. I am not denying that notion, I am merely stating the conditions for the aforementioned forgiveness.
You're trying to trick me. You're trying to get me to back away from this strategy against the death penalty.
Please, counselor, address your comments to the court.
All right, for purposes of argumentation. Let's assume that my client has indeed humbled himself before God, and admits to each and every one of the 6 premeditated murders. What then? Does the prosecutor accept a lesser sentence?
A lesser sentence?
Yes, perhaps life in prison without the possibility of parole?
Life in prison without the possibility of parole? But Jesus would forgive.
Are you saying that you would consider a lesser sentence? Say, life in prison with the possibility of parole?
A prison sentence is a harsh penalty. But Jesus would forgive.
What are you up to?
Please, counselor, address your comments to the court.
The prosecutor is up to something, I know it.
Counselor, are you up to something?
Your Honor, if defense counsel's argument is, but Jesus would forgive, why should we punish the defendant at all? Jesus would forgive.
You're kidding, right? He's kidding, right?
Counselor?
Well, if the only grounds for forgiveness are humility and confession, I'm willing to release the prisoner, provided that we remand custody of the defendant to the defense counsel or herself.
Counselor?
You've got to be kidding. You're going to remand custody of a serial killer to me?
Yes.
Me, personally?
Yes.
He's a serial killer. I would end up dead and dismembered just like his other victims. That would be cruel and unusual punishment for me.
But Jesus would forgive.
This is not what I expected. Listen. I don't know much about the Bible, but I'm sure that Jesus wasn't talking about governments forgiving convicted murderers in order to let them kill again. He must have been talking about God forgiving individuals of their guilt. Yes, that's it. Jesus would forgive. But it doesn't apply here.
I agree.
Me too. It looks like we're back to the death penalty.
Let's not backtrack too far. Is it too late to change my strategy? What about cruel and unusual punishment?
Counselor?
Jesus himself submitted to capital punishment. So did the Apostle Paul. As a matter of fact, 11 of the 12 apostles submitted to capital punishment for lesser offenses than murder.
He's toast.
Very well, this court submits to the law of the land, which, according to biblical teaching and practice, states that if man takes the life of a man made in God's image, his life shall be forfeited. I hereby order the death penalty of the defendant as prescribed by law and by God. This court is adjourned.
You know you really had me going there. Talk about cruel and unusual punishment.
Based on a play by Bob Snook. Conditions for use: do not sell any part of this script, even if you rewrite it.
Pay no royalties, even if you make money from performances.
You may reproduce and distribute this script freely, but all copies must contain this copyright statement.